So we thought it would be quite good for us to sort of set out a little introduction episode to start our podcast, just to let you know a little bit about us, what we're trying to sort of achieve and what we're trying to do, and just give you a flavour of what's really to sort of come in the future. So obviously the best place for us to start is introductions. So I'm Peter, I'm 38 from Lincoln, and my co-host.
My name is Liam, I'm 33, a failed film school dropout.
So a little bit of background about myself and Liam. We've known each other for, 3 years? 2 years? 3 years?
I think ever since the start of the pandemic, so it was probably, 2020, I think, April 2020.
God, it's only 2 years. Wow. So we met at work. I actually hired Liam.
Yeah.
The first time we met was he came through my door begging for a job.
Casting couch situation.
It certainly was. And we had, even at that, in that interview, I think we sort of hit it off, and we started even talking about films. And it was very, very quickly apparent that we both had a love for cinema and movies and movie making.
Yeah, you could. I remember we both started talking about the films that we were interested in, and then it steadily progressed on to what sort of film podcasts we listen to, and just two guys that love movies probably a little bit too much. It was kind of like it was meant to be.
Yes, and we sort of went. We went into. Had a little game going between us, really, in terms of movie suggestions, because we'd chat about have you seen this, have you seen that, and you'd be like, no, you got to see it, and we started making recommendations to each other, and it became quite apparent that neither of us ended up actually watching each other's suggestions. So then we sort of made a bit of a pact to say, we will recommend a movie, and you've got to watch it, and then sort of feed it back to each other. So, and we kept that up for a fair while, I think. I mean, he certainly opened my eyes to some cracking films. I don't think there were too many. There was a couple that I was maybe not sort of as high on as you, but I think a fair few of my suggestions you enjoyed.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I mean, that's the great thing about talking to people about movies. We both find things that we probably necessarily wouldn't have looked at in the past, or, just something totally under the radar. Like, I remember that Delamitri Delamore, I think it was, that you
Delamorte Delamore, Cemetery Man, yeah.
That's it, yeah, Cemetery Man. Yeah, Cemetery Man. And that was a really interesting little find, and I loved it. It was great. Yeah, we kept it up for a while, I think, when we both had the time.
And then, alas, life happened, and I moved on, and things were never the same at our old workplace.
Did you hear me? I said I quit, Monty!
I'd slide that in. It happens a lot. You move jobs, you go on to something else, and you sort of, we'll stay in touch and all that sort of stuff, and 99% of the time you probably don't do that, but we kept it up. We started having movie nights, trips to the cinema, you cut a hole in the popcorn, back seat, yawning, all that sort of stuff, and I think we've maintained that sort of acquaintanceship. But then a few months ago, I sort of put it to you that I fancied having a stab at doing a podcast, and I'd got what I thought was a pretty solid idea, and lo and behold, put it to you, bang, there we go.
I foolishly agreed, and here we are.
Foolishly agreed. You'd loved it straight away. Took my arm off.
I jumped at it. I was like, we're going to talk about movies, great.
I pitched to you what would become the Movie Duel Podcast. So my idea was that we basically each episode we would pick a film based on a particular category or genre or subject or whatever it may be, something that fits within the movie world. And we would discuss each other's selections and sort of pit them against each other and sort of argue our case for that particular film within that specific category. We went through took a few bits out of that original premise, and I think really we've made it a lot more, or it's going to be a lot more laid back than maybe me against you and all that sort of thing. But yeah, that was the basic premise, was we each pick a movie based on a particular rule. So that could be a best movie within a particular category, or a worst movie, underrated, overrated, goriest. It could be anything. But we didn't want to make that boring, because we could pick one film could come under multiple headings. Jaws, for example, one of our shared sort of favourite films. It's a monster movie. It's an adventure movie. It's all sorts of things.
In some aspects, it's a slasher, really.
So, yeah, you could label it under lots of different things. Best director, best Spielberg movie, best shark movie. We didn't want it to get stagnant, and really, we didn't want to just be able to just pick the same movie again and again. So we've made a very sort of fine overarching rule to the whole of this podcast, which is that we are not allowed to pick the same movie more than once. So we will keep a database of the movies that we've picked. Neither of us will be able to pick those movies again. So if we went for the best shark movie, Liam may pick Jaws and I might pick Three-Headed Shark Attack. Neither of us would be able to use them later on down the line for any other pick that we've got. The idea being that it's going to make it a little bit more interesting. It's going to make us think a little bit more about the picks that we choose. If we want to try and keep something in our back pocket for a later subject, and hopefully for any potential listeners, keep it nice and fresh. So the way it's going to work is that each week one of us will select a subject, then the other person gets to pick the first movie. So they have the priority sort of pick. So if it's my subject, if I've picked the subject for the week, Liam gets to choose the movie first. So he may pick the movie that I was going to pick, and I have to pick something else. So again, it keeps us on our toes, makes us think about the subjects that we're going to pick, but also makes us think about the films that we're potentially going to pick for that subject.
Yeah, it definitely makes us think outside the box as our choices for what we want to pick, really. And that's one of the things that I like about this. Yeah,
definitely. So the format will be pretty basic, really. Once we've discussed the subject, we'll discuss each other's picks. We'll be sort of given a bit of time to argue our case and put forward why we think that it fits that subject the best. Each of those films will be talked about with spoilers, so we would recommend that you view those choices beforehand. We are looking to sort of, when we announce the episodes, put up what our choices are, so that you've got time to take those in, digest them, and see what we're talking about. Also, I think it's fair to say that we'll probably, almost definitely, be using profanity throughout. We're not going to F and Jeff every other word, but this isn't for kids.
Yes, there will definitely be some profanity when it is needed.
Certainly. Definitely when I pick The Exorcist 2.
He's been threatening me with this, and I don't know if I can agree to this.
That's the other important part of this podcast, is that obviously whatever I pick, Liam has to watch, and I have to watch whatever Liam picks, so that we accurately talk about each of those movies. But I think, like I said, it's going to really we're going to sort of have to think about what we're picking and what we're... although we're not quite getting to, wanting to be the sort of battle that we thought the podcast was originally going to be, and all this, that and the other, we are still going to sort of use social media and things like that for any potential listeners to have their say and put some polls up and see who agrees with who. Be interesting to sort of see that, and hopefully we'll get some good feedback from that as well. But above all, we want to have a bit of fun with this. I think that, as passionate as we are about movies and movie making and all that sort of stuff, we do... Even the good films, even the ones that we agree are probably the best, some of the best films ever made, we'll sit and we'll pick at them and pick out the funny bits and things like that. we're not wanting this to be commode and mayo.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, nothing's perfect. It's all down to, each person's own perspective on how they see that film and how it feels to them and all that sort of thing. So, somebody might watch Jaws and think it's not great. I mean, I don't want to see those people or speak to them or have anything to do with them. We're here to have a discussion.
Yeah, exactly. And you will all learn what Liam's catchphrase is, which is, well, I didn't hate it.
But I didn't like it.
Yes. Which normally means he probably thought it was the drizzling shit.
No, that's not true. I just, it's a 3. You know what I mean? It's not awful. It's not great. It's a 3. So
it's a 3-star or a 6.
Yeah.
Okay. But like I said, we're hoping to get people listening and getting involved a little bit. We'll be looking to launch things like a Facebook page and all that sort of stuff to get people involved. And hopefully you will. We're very excited to share our views with some people and see what they think. And on that note, before we wrap this up, take this opportunity to announce what our first subject will be. So the first subject was my choice. So this means that Liam gets to pick first. Obviously, if he picks the film I was thinking about, I have to find something else. But I've got a few ideas, so hopefully it won't. The first subject I'm going for is the most underrated sequel ever.
Okay. See, it's not a bad way to start off the first episode talking about sequels.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of them out there, and a lot to look at and pick through. So just to make clear what the rules are that I've set out for most underrated sequel. So it must be a sequel within the main canon of a series. So i.e. it's not a remake or a spin-off, unless it's a sequel to a remake or the remake of a spin-off, if that makes sense. So, for example, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Is probably the only mention that's going to get on this podcast.
I agree.
It can include a reset canon. So, again, something like Halloween H2O. I'm using Halloween a lot as an example here. So, it could also...
So much to dig from.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. And it cannot be part of a continuing story, i.e. Lord of the Rings or It or Star Wars or whatever. So it should be a film that was either a commercial failure, a critical failure, or just generally considered inferior. So they're the rules as I set them out. You can twist and turn them to your needs as you wish, but you've obviously got to justify why you've picked it as being underrated compared to its predecessor or predecessors. So how are you feeling about that? Do you think you've got a few bits to pick from?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna think about that one, because there's definitely some movies that are close to my heart.
Yeah, obviously, this is going to be our first episode, so we're not necessarily going to jump straight into that format of announcing what we've picked, because we're going to be going straight into it. And this is our first podcast, so there's a bit of a learning curve for us. We need to get this all down and get it edited and polished and make sure that we're all good to go. So that that announcement will probably come straight off with the first episode, maybe the first 2 or 3. But we're hoping to get to a point where we'll announce our picks a bit earlier, so that you've got any listeners have got an opportunity to watch them and digest them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's probably going to be a lot of movies that most audiences will have seen, but I think there might be some stuff that people haven't really heard of or haven't watched just because they've heard bad things about it or, haven't given it a chance.
Yeah.
A lot of movies out there.
Lots and lots. There we have it. That's our little introduction episode. Hopefully it's sort of explained what we're trying to achieve and got you in the mood for listening to us talk about movies. Good ones and shit ones.
Yep, so if you want a podcast with 2 middle-aged guys talking about movies that came out 40 years ago, this is the one for you.
Middle-aged? I'm 38, you shit.
Okay. Well, I'm younger than you, but I feel middle-aged.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're just going to do what we normally do as mates, just have a laugh and talk about movies. So, hopefully people want to listen to that. Hopefully you can, and... you check the first episode out, and thank you for listening to this introduction little episode that we've done.
So we will see you on the other side. We will see you at the most underrated sequel ever.
Yes.
So it just leaves me to say goodbye, and for Liam to say...
Au revoir, Shoshana!
Brilliant.